Greetings. Myself, N. Usha, Department of Microbiology, Sacred Heart College, Autonomous, Tirupattur. In this video, we have to see about the history and development of food microbiology. First, we have to see about history of food microbiology. Microorganisms have always been closely related to food and food systems. Authorities believe that appropriately 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, humans began to have problems associated with food poisoning and food spoilage. The importance of one's ability to produce and preserve food was recognized early. Both livestock and salt had monetary value and could be compared to today's currency. Wealth and social status in many cases was based upon the amount of success one had at producing in times of plenty and preserving what could not be consumed immediately for the times of hardship. Many early religious laws prohibiting the consumption of impure or unclean foods were based on hygiene and were similarly seen in countries not conforming to the same religious beliefs. The first individual to describe microorganisms was Kircher in 1658, who reported worms that were undetectable to the naked eye on several decomposing times. Shortly thereafter, the theory of spontaneous generation, later on it is known as abiogenesis, became widely accepted. In 1785, the French government offered a prize to anyone who could develop a practical method to preserve the food. In 809, the Nicolas Appert was successful by preserving meats that had been boiled in water in corked glass bottles. At the time, he was unaware of the microbiological logic behind this process. Some very old extant. In 7000 BC, which means before the birth of the Christ, evidence that the Babylonians manufactured beer, which is the fermentation, wine appeared in about 3500 BC. In early civilization, alcoholic beverages like beer and wine were much safer to consume than the local water supply because the water was often contaminated with intestinal microorganisms that has caused cholera, dysentery, and other serious diseases. 6000 BC, the first apparent reference to food spoilage in recorded history. In 3000 BC, Egyptians manufactured cheese and butter. Again, fermented foods such as the cheese and sour milk were safer to eat and resisted spoilage better than their raw agriculture counterparts. Several cultures also learned to use salt to preserve meat and other foods around this time. In 1000 BC, Romans used snow to preserve shrimp. Records of smoked and fermented meats also appear. Next, let us understand about the development of food microbiology. The major developments of ideas on the possible roles of microorganisms in foods and their scientific proof were initiated by Pasteur in 1870, followed by many other scientists before the end of the 19th century. This paved the way for the establishment of early food microbiology in 20th century. Milestones in food preservation. In 1782, canning of vinegar was introduced by the Swedish chemist. In 1843, sterilization by steam was first attempted by I. Winslow in Maine. In 1845, S. Eliot introduced canning to Australia. In 1880, the pasteurization of milk was begun in Germany. In 1890, the commercial pasteurization of milk was begun in United States. Next, the milestones in food spoilages. In 1659, Kircher demonstrated the occurrence of bacteria in milk. Bondiou did the same in 1847. In 1780, Scheele identified lactic acid as the principal acid in the sour milk. In 1873, the first reported study on the microbial deterioration of the eggs was carried out by Guyon. In 1876, the Dindal observed that bacteria in decomposing substances were always traceable to air substances or containers. In 1950, the Bacillus coagulans was first isolated from coagulated milk by B.W. Hammer. Next, the milestones in food poisoning. In 1894, T. Dennis was the first to associate staphylococci with food poisoning. In 1896, Van Ermengem first discovered Clostridium botulinum. In 1906, Bacillus series food poisoning was recognized. In 1926, the first report of food poisoning by streptococci was made by the Linden, Turner, and Thome. In 1938, the outbreaks of Campylobacter enteritis were traced to milk in Illinois, United States of America. In 1939, the gastroenteritis caused by Yersinia enterocolitica, it is affected in the colon region, was first recognized. Then, the milestones in food legislation. In 1890, the first National Meat Inspection Law was enacted. It required the inspection of meats for exports only. In 1906, the United States Federal Food and Drug Act was passed by Congress. In 1910, the New York City Board of Health issued an order requiring the pasteurization of milk. In 1939, the new Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act became law. In 1957, the United States Compulsory Poultry and Poultry Products Law was enacted. Thank you.